So let us assume that yesterday you're driving your car, everything was working great, and then you parked it for the night. But then this morning you woke up and your car simply won't start. Now, I know that you're frustrated, but don't be like this guy here. Welcome to Rack Tuned. So assuming that everything else is constant, your car's engine requires only 3 things to run. That is spark, fuel, and air. But today we're going to specifically be looking at how to troubleshoot the ignition system, and that is a system which produces a spark that burns the fuel in your engine. In the next step, you get a long screwdriver like this one, and then you're going to pull out the spark plug wire and stick the screwdriver inside there until it makes contact with the metal part inside, and then you hold it close to a ground. You just make sure that you do not it does not contact the metal itself, it leaves a gap. And then this is why you will need someone to help you crank the engine so that you observe if you're having spark jump from the screwdriver basically to the earth, which is the engine. Huh? Uh-huh. So the spark that I was getting at the wire was not convincing. It was intermittent. It was there sometimes as the engine was cranking and not there sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and open the distributor and check if I have a regular spark at the ignition coil, and also show you how the rest of the parts work anyways, which is the purpose of this video. And by the way, my engine is a B20B from a Honda CR-V. So this is what the distributor looks like up close. Down here is the ignition control module, which receives a signal from the ECU and then sends a current to the primary. These are the contacts of the primary of the ignition coil. Then this is the secondary. This is where the spark comes out and goes to the rest of the rotor and the spark plug wires. That is my grounding point there, and then to this long screwdriver. And basically the next step also needs the assistance of someone to crank for you the engine inside, and then you hold this screwdriver close to this gap, and if the coil is working, everything is working, then you should have a spark there. Just be careful not to short this, because this is not good for the entire system. You could short circuit the ICM and cause more problems than you already have. So if you carried out the test of cranking the car and holding the screwdriver here, and you did not get a spark from the ignition coil, that is not a good sign. It could be that the ignition coil itself is bad. It could be that the igniter is bad. It could be that this distributor is not getting a signal from the ECU. It could be any of those problems. But if you get a spark at the ignition coil and the spark is not arriving at the spark plugs, it means basically your problem is between here and here. So it could be the rotor that's attached here, or these contacts, or a problem with the connection with these points, or the cables that carry the voltage up to the spark plug. So it depends on how much skill you have in troubleshooting problems. Just don't fall. So because I know something about electronics, this is how I would go about troubleshooting all of this or finding problems. Now, I tested the wire that comes from the ECU to the car's distributor, and I found that it carries 10 volts. Now, most of the times you find that the ECU is isolated from the system it controls, because you don't want a short circuit on one of the systems of the car's systems to shut down the entire ECU, or to shut down the rest of the systems that are functioning properly. So what I believe is happening here is that there's a signal coming to the ECU, then it controls this transistor, which then switches this 10 volts to the ground. Then we have spark coming out of the ignition coil. To simulate that, I created this small circuit here, which is basically a fancy on and off switch whose frequency I can change. and I'll show you how that works in a moment. Now at this point, the car's key is on the on position, and I want to send voltage to the distributor. So if I activate my on and off switch, it will activate the coil, and we should be able to see spark if we bring our earth ground point close to the distributor. So this is how I'll check if spark plug wires are okay, plus the spark plugs. So I've connected the spark plug cable to the ignition coil, and it comes here just like it will be in the engine, and this other connection provides the grounding point there. So I'll switch on my system here, and as you can see we have spark, and I can adjust it here. So I've changed the spark plug, and you can immediately see that this one has no spark, so it is dead. So I was able to go through the entire ignition system of my car. I checked the cables are fine. I checked the spark plugs. The spark plugs were okay apart from one which was also working, but not as I thought, not as good as the rest. So one more thing that I didn't mention is that you can check with a meter for the resistance of the ignition coil. The primary should measure, I think, around 1 ohm, and the secondary should measure between 12 kilo ohms and 18 kilo ohms for this particular coil for the B20B Honda engine. Now you can also do a visual inspection on the spark plugs, specifically where there's the insulation, the white insulation, where there's normally a label. It shouldn't have any cracks there. Otherwise, if you have cracks there, it means that your spark plugs are going out, even if they're still working. Now, remember that I was messing with my car's ECU in this video. If I started this car right now and drove it, I might have issues with idling because the car's computer was keeping track of all that was happening. So what I have to do is remove the battery, reset the ECU, and then I should be good to go. Thanks for watching. I hope you're able to fix your cars well. I hope you learned something from this video, and hopefully I see you on the next one.